Hi everyone, it's Tim Vipons here. I'm thrilled to be with you today to run a really exciting test. We are going to take this completed three-statement financial model from one of our courses, delete all the formulas in the forecast, in fact, delete the whole forecast section, and then upload it into Claude in Excel and see if it can build this fully integrated, fully connected and dynamic three-statement financial model from scratch, exactly as we teach in our course. All right, let's get started with this. The first thing you need to do is download and install Claude by Anthropic in Excel. Simply Google it, it'll come up. Go to the Microsoft website and you can click Get It Now to download and install. Once you've done that, jump over into Excel and meet me there. Here I am back in Excel and I can click Open Claude in the top right corner once I have it installed. This is where I'm going to upload the file and give it the prompt. But first, let's just take a look at the file we're going to upload, which is the blank and uncompleted worksheet. Okay, here we are inside the file. All we have for the forecast period are these assumptions. And beneath it, the model's completely blank. So you saw that the income statement had nothing, balance sheet has nothing. We're talking about the forecast period here, right? We've given the historicals, which you'd always get as a financial analyst, but we're not giving any forecast information whatsoever for the cash flow, for the working capital and PP&E schedules, for the capital structure schedules, even for charts and graphs here, there's nothing. So we're going to take this file that's totally blank for a forecast, just has assumptions, and see if we can get that perfect output that we're looking for. Okay, so open up a blank sheet, a blank workbook. You don't need any historical information in it itself. Just click Add, and then the plus sign, I should say, and then Add Files and Photos. Once this opens up, select the file. In our case, it's this blank model that I just showed you with no forecast information. Click Open and add it. Now I'm going to insert a prompt. The prompt that I'm inserting here is intentionally very simple because that's the best way to test its actual cognitive capabilities here. The simple prompt is use this Excel template from CFI to complete the forecast. You have all the assumptions you need to build the three financial statements linked in Excel, right? That's essentially what the prompt says. Super simple and straightforward. Let's hit enter. And it's going to start thinking about it, and it's going to start analyzing the model and starting to build it. While it's thinking away, why don't we go back into the completed model and take a look at it? So here I am in the completed model, and you can see on the right here, the file behind me, that it's working away in the background. Let's just let it get a bit of a head start, but take a look at some of the numbers. Here's what revenue looks like. In year 5, just pay attention to this number, see if it looks familiar, or net income, or when we get to the balance sheet, roughly this much cash on the balance sheet. Some of these numbers should hopefully look familiar. Let's move back over and see what it started to do. Okay, so first it's going to copy the data from the uploaded spreadsheet and paste it in here systematically. This is exactly what a financial analyst would do if it was given the information. So you can see it's just copied and pasted over the information. And let's see what it's going to do next if I scroll down. All right, and as we scroll down, we see the historical financial information for income statement, balance sheet, cash flow, and supporting schedules, right? This is exactly what I would do as a financial analyst if I was trying to build something from scratch. I might be copying the historical information from a 10K or an annual report and then pasting it into Excel, or downloading it through a plugin to get it even faster. But either way, I'm essentially importing the historical financial data into Excel so that I can start building things out. So the structure and the framework here is already excellent. It's just copied the structure and framework that we gave it. It's not overthinking anything. It's clearly organized the assumptions and drivers at the top, right? Then the income statement, balance sheet, and everything we'd expect that a good financial analyst would build. So it's exciting to see that at least it's got that part right. We're off to a good start. All right, now it says it's verifying the structure. That's good. So it's going to check the historical data, make sure everything's properly imported, and then it's going to start building the forecast. So it understands that the forecast is going to be columns F through J. And that's exactly right. Those are years 1 to 5 of the forecast. So it obviously understands the difference between the historicals and the forecast without any issues. And it's going to start actually performing the calculations here right in front of us. We could literally sit back and drink a coffee while we watch this thing get pieced together. It's pretty exciting. So let's see when it starts to build the first formula. Okay, here we go. It's starting to drop in formulas. Let's quickly take a look at them as they go in. Look at that. We see revenues the prior period times 1 plus the growth rate. I recognize that number right away from the income statement. I think the final year revenue number is correct. Let's look at something like cost of goods sold. It's multiplying revenue by the assumption for gross margin. 1 minus the assumption for gross margin, so that's correct. Getting to gross profit, that's probably the right number, though I don't know it off by hand. Let's just format this column so we can see the labels a little better. It's making its way down the income statement. It can't do interest yet until it builds the debt schedule, but that's fine. Let's scroll down to the balance sheet. It's already populating balance sheet line items. That's great to see. Equity and liabilities and balance sheet check. Of course, the balance sheet doesn't balance yet. It would never balance this early in model development. So that's totally normal and fine. It's just going to keep moving its way down. Now it's going in to build the cash flow statement based on what it can build at this point. It's just following the same pattern a financial analyst would. It's just following the steps, building every little piece that it can build at a time. And then it'll circle back to fill in more things as it completes more schedules. And once again, this is exactly what we teach at CFI. If we were to teach you to build this model from scratch, although I don't think anyone could build these formulas as fast as it's building them here. It's pretty impressive to see how quickly these are dropping in. I'm not speeding this up in any way. I'm not skipping ahead or anything. And I haven't this isn't a canned exercise. I just hope it's going to work, and we'll see at the end if it actually works. Okay, so now it's working on the working capital and PP&E schedules. You know, these are some complicated nuances of the model in order to get the balance sheet to balance, right? It's not as simple as just the 3 statements on their own. You need to have these supporting schedules as well to pop in balance sheet items, and then eventually to get the cash flow statement to work and the balance sheet to balance at the end. That's obviously the ultimate goal here. So we're going at a rapid pace, all the way already at 150 rows of Excel formulas. And then what do we have? The capital structure schedule next, right? So it's building all that out really quickly here. It's using formulas everywhere. This is fantastic, exactly what we would hope to see. Common stock and paid-in capital, it needs that for the balance sheet. It's going to do net income and dividends next. Retained earnings. Let's see, we don't actually have the charts and graphs displayed in this file, but that's fine. It's just going to populate the information here for me, so I could quickly add charts and graphs at the end if I wanted to, although I'm not really testing it for that at this point. I just want to see if it can get the 3 financial statements properly linked in the balance sheet balancing. But so far, seems to be an impressive start. It seems to have identified a few issues that it had, and it's going to go back and try to fix those formulas. So hopefully it can do it. Let's see, we're looking at F48 and F49, for example. Let's just see if it can think its way through this. Okay, so it realizes now that it needs to calculate taxes based on taxable income or earnings before taxes. All right, it's going to figure out about dividends and net income. You'll see that there is an assumption out here for a dividend payout ratio. So let's see if it can figure out how to calculate the dividends based on that. So look at this, it's taking net income multiplying it by the dividend payout ratio. Good. It got that figured out. It got net income in place. If my memory serves me, I think this is close to the number that we had in the other model. So seems to be doing quite a good job here. Oh, it actually says now that the balance sheet is balancing. All right, that's great. Incredible. The model is fully dynamic. It says changing assumptions will flow through the three statements. That's incredible. The only other prompt I'm going to give it now is to ask to help with the formatting. Okay, so here's the simple prompt I'm giving it to fix the formatting. Let's see what it can do with that. All right, so it's going to refer back to the original file to check the formatting there. That's a good sign. All right, it looks like it's identified some rules or guidelines for formatting. Let's see if it can implement these properly. All right, look at that. It's starting to apply some formatting. I'm seeing some changes drop in pretty quickly. I'm just scrolling around trying to see if I can keep up with it. Let's see what it's doing next. Oh, here we go. It's making the years bold. Look at that. It figured out how to change the number here to be a custom number that includes the word year. So you'll see if I click into this formula that I really just have a number, which is year 0 plus 1, but it's formatting it with the word year. This is something really specific that we teach you how to do in the course using a special type of number formatting, and it picked up on that all on its own. Look at this. It's changing all the hard codes to blue, adding percentages where it needs to have percentages, adding commas to separate thousands, which is something we always teach. So this is great. Yeah, look at these hard codes up here, all blue. Formulas here, staying black. That's exactly what we teach the CFI way. Here it goes. Interesting that it overlooked this cell. I wonder if it'll go back and catch that one later. That's just kind of funny, but it's doing a pretty awesome job so far. All right, it's still chipping away, making more blue colored assumptions, which we like to see. It's almost done on the assumptions. We'll see if it comes back to this cell here now or maybe later, but it's generally pretty good at catching everything. So I'm optimistic that it will. Okay, it fixed the formatting here on these numbers, added year next to them. Let's see what it's going to do next. It's making all the historicals blue because they're hard-coded. That's great. All right, it's got the income statement nearly complete. It did miss a row here with gross profit. Oh, no, it's gone back and just fixed that right now. Made it bold. That's nice. Let's see what it's going to do next. EBIT. It's making that bold. Good. So it really is following the CFI guidelines and following the example that was set in the template that I uploaded. This is what you'd expect an analyst to do. This is how you train an analyst to follow brand guidelines, right? Except it learns instantly. Okay, it's moving on to the balance sheet. All right, so checking back in here, we just paused it for a second while it's going row by row, but you can see it's got the balance sheet pretty nicely formatted. I would add some border lines here. We'll see if it comes back and does those later. But it's pretty incredible that we've got a balancing balance sheet at this point. Very good formatting practices as well. Let's go down to the cash flow statement. We'll take a quick pause while it just quickly fills in the formatting for all these cells. All right, let's check in. It's making its way through the PP&E schedules now. So that's great. It should be done formatting pretty soon. All right, so it's finished its first pass through. Now it's going back and double checking things. It's verifying that all historical hard-coded numbers are blue, right? And if I quickly scan through, it looks like, yes, that's absolutely the case. These should all be formulas down here in these supporting schedules. And that's why these numbers are black. So when I quickly check it myself manually, it looks good. If I press F5, I can quickly check to see if the hard codes are where they're supposed to be. So I want to go to special. I want to go to constants excluding text. Okay. So I see that it looks pretty good, although there are a few exceptions here. So hopefully it will find those few exceptions and make them blue. And some of these formulas that are blue, it should actually make black. So let's see if it's going to get it all the way done here across the line. Let's see what it's working on now. I might have to give it one more prompt just to ask it to double check a few more things. And then I think we can take a pause on formatting. Okay, so I have given it a little nudge here about E11 and I11. Okay, so after I gave it that prompt, it did identify the issue. Okay, so it's finished its review. It says it's fixed everything, and it says that all years have 0 on the balance sheet checks, so the balance sheet balances and the model's working correctly, which is utterly incredible and is true. And we'll compare it to the completed model from our CFI course, and we'll see if in fact all the numbers are exactly the same. The formatting is like 99% there. There's just a couple of little quirks like some cells that aren't shaded here. I think if I continue to prompt it, I could get it to fix all these things. I'm sure I could get it to change this to be a percentage. And, other than that, it's basically there. So let's compare it to the model that we built together in our course. All right, let's do a side-by-side comparison. On the left, we have the CFI model from our course. On the right, we have the Claude model that it built in a matter of minutes. If we look at the assumptions here, we can quickly scan them and see that the assumptions are all exactly the same. Okay, so it correctly brought those over. And then let's see what it did on the income statement. Here's the income statement out to year 5 that Claude built. Here's the income statement from the CFI course. Look at that, net income in year 5, exactly the same number. So that tells me really quickly that it built the whole income statement correctly. And if I just spot check these formulas, they all make sense and they are all the same as the formulas that we have in the CFI course. So it built the income statement with no additional prompt engineering. Let's go down to the balance sheet, the real moment of truth. The most exciting thing, unbelievable. Look at this. A perfectly matching forecasted balance sheet. It balances, all of the numbers look correct. When I just spot checked them relative to the CFI model, they're all the same, and it's all based on formulas, and it built it all in a new workbook. That's how I know it did it truly from scratch. It didn't just take it from some other file. Plus the file I uploaded had all these formulas deleted anyway. Let's go down to the cash flow statement. We can see here, we get the same ending cash balance. We get the same numbers at all the subtotals, like cash flow from operating activities. We can see it calculated everything correctly to get to that number. This is truly mind-blowing. Let's go down to working capital. There's just a little bit of formatting difference here, but besides the formatting difference, look at this. Every single row, every number that I see here is calculated perfectly and exactly the same as the CFI model. Same thing when I go down to these supporting schedules for capital structure. I get the same retained earnings number at the end from Claude as we did in our course where we taught you how to build this all from scratch. So I'm utterly blown away that I can now go into Claude and with a prompt as simple as the one that we used, which was just follow the CFI template and formatting, use these set of assumptions, and build a fully dynamic integrated 3-statement model from scratch. Build every single formula yourself, and there's no answer guide, and it did it flawlessly. The only area that it struggled a little bit was on formatting, but I have to say overall, this is an excellent first pass of formatting. I could probably spend 5 minutes in this model and get it to be truly identical to the CFI model, all while I was just sitting back, drinking a coffee, watching it do its work. This is a huge breakthrough. Thank you for joining me for this demonstration. I really hope you enjoyed it.